Good day, our viewers. We are here at Wellness Influencers with another fantastic interview with Dr. Liam Schubel. Hopefully, I pronounced it right. I am grateful for Dr. Schubel to be with us. We will be diving into wellness, mind, body, anything that we can. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, send us a message, and I would be more than happy to ask the doctor. Dr. Schubel, welcome. Please give us an introduction, sir, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure, always a pleasure and a privilege to be able to speak about something I'm so passionate about. And I think this is one of the things doctors of chiropractic are just in love with, is the opportunity every day that we have in our offices to watch the optimal expression of humans' potential come out and be witness to that. You know, I see a lot of children in my office. I see a lot of families in my office. And we also see people from, all sizes, shapes, colors, and the greatest thing is to watch people. I love to watch that light bulb of potential go on. People that really underestimated the power that their body had to heal. People that were told they were crazy, that they would never get better, that it was all in their head, all of a sudden start to get some spinal adjustments and have their life changed, and start to fall in love themselves with this principle that the body is a self-healing, self-conscious, self-regulating organism, and that it's the nerve system, the master control system, that coordinates every function in our body. And the idea of maintaining those lines of communication open for life, and then in doing so, allowing our body the greatest ability to adapt to its environment and to thrive, it's just a whole new world of potential. We weren't born to be sick, we were born to be healthy. But we and many times we have a false idea of what health is, right? And so I thank you for providing this type of program to kind of switch people's minds to a different way of thinking. There is that idea in any level of success that anybody has. You have to understand first what your objective is, and then you have to understand how to achieve that objective and take action steps congruent with the objective that you wish to have. So if what you've been doing for your health hasn't been working for you, you might want to consider changing your approach. And that's what chiropractic is really all about, is changing the way we view health, and then taking action steps congruent with that change in order to get a better result.
Amazing. You have been in practice for how long, sir, and where do you practice?
So I've been in practice for 24 years, and I have, I tell you this, I'm more in love with it. Every day I'm more in love with this thing than I was when I started out. So many people are in jobs or professions that, they can't wait to go on a vacation. They can't wait to get away from it. I miss it when I go on vacation. I don't go on vacation to escape from it. I go on vacation just to do something else that I love doing in addition to chiropractic. So I've been 24 years in this profession. I have 20 chiropractic offices around the world. We're opening up number 21 this next coming month. My offices are in unique areas of the world. I'm in Peru, Colombia, and the Dominican Republic. And it's very interesting because the mindset in Latin America is very different than the mindset in North America and other parts of the world. There is this idea, this natural understanding that the people have of the body's innate wisdom and the innate intelligence of the body and its ability to heal and function optimally. And they really have this idea that, pharmaceuticals, while they can be helpful, of course, at times, in most cases are just addressing the effects of a body that's malfunctioning, rather than looking into what's the fundamental cause, or looking, how can we support the innate intelligence of the body, rather than going against it and suppressing it. And so I love working in Latin America because they don't have this enamored view of the pharmaceutical industry. So it's very interesting, here in the United States and in Canada so many times, we see people absolutely almost like a religion, like there's a belief system that in order to get well, I have to take drugs. So those are the same drugs that if I gave those to healthy children, they would get sick. So we're giving toxins to try to achieve health. And again, there's a time and a place for pharmaceuticals. Nobody's not saying that. But the issue is you can't maintain optimal health by drugging yourself. That's impossible. So we need to look at ways to how can we improve our adaptability and how can we improve our physiology? How can we improve the every function of our body? And what we found in the nerves in the chiropractic profession is that the nerve system has an intimate relationship with the alignment of the spinal bones, the vertebra. And what we find is when those vertebrae move out of alignment, they could produce obstructions to that nerve system. And then the body has this great way of reminding us. You know, I find as I travel around the world, I've taken care of people from low and high places all around the world. And I found that what we all have in similarity is we all have spinal columns. We all have spinal columns that misalign because we all have stress. We all have tension. We all have accidents, falls, you know, these micro traumas that occur day in and day out. And what happens is when those spinal bones misalign, they obstruct the nerve system. And when the nerve system is obstructed, that has consequences. And those consequences over time build up and cause damage. And when there's a sufficient level of damage, again, the innate intelligence of the body sends this awesome, no matter where we are in the world, if you don't speak Chinese, no problem, we have a language for you. If you don't speak Spanish, no problem, we have a language for it. There's a language that we fundamentally understand in the entire world. And that language is the language of pain, the language of symptoms, right? And the language of pathology. So it's very interesting. Pathologists study death, right? And what's going on and why people die. Chiropractors really study life and why does a person live and be healthy? You know, there's this whole science that's out there of salutogenesis. And salutogenesis is, instead of focusing on the pathology and why people are dying, let's focus on what we can do to accentuate their ability to adapt to the environment and thrive. And imagine if our entire focus of healthcare was how can we support the body before it gets into a situation where it's in a pathological condition. Because I got to tell you, and many people know that have suffered, it's a lot more difficult to get out of a quagmire than to prevent yourself from getting into one. And you know, it's really interesting. You know, we all recognize as humans the benefit of maintenance, right? We take care of our cars. I mean, you'd be insane not to do a regular maintenance if you want your car to function efficiently and safely, right? You do maintenance throughout your house, right? Your heating and air conditioning system, that has to be maintained. I think about all the things I own, you know, and this is one of the things I've learned in 24 years. I'm trying to own less now because the more things I have, the more things I have to maintain. I have a jet ski right now. We're in New Jersey. It's January. I'm not jet skiing around in 30, 40 degree Fahrenheit weather, right? So, but I have to maintain that even though I'm not using it because I want it to work correctly and optimally when the summertime comes and I can get out to the Jersey Shore, right? So everything requires maintenance. We don't have that same understanding many times with our health. You know, a lot of times as a chiropractor, you know, a lot of times they call us the doctors of last resort. So after you've been drugged, after you've been injected, after you've had things chopped out of your body, then you go see the chiropractor. You know, so you start with the most invasive, then you finally end up in the most conservative. And a lot of times we're able to help people restore their health when others have failed because we're using a different approach, right? There's that idea of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you spent your lifetime treating symptoms or, you know, injecting yourself or cutting things out when it's not working, why don't you start to think, why is this even happening in the first place? Why am I losing my ability that I had before when I was younger to heal and function optimally? And I would suggest to you that if you look at your spine, you know, many people, like I say, don't come into our office till they're 40, 50, 60 years old, and it's the first time. And we take specific x-rays in the office. And many times they're shocked because, you know, they think that just yesterday this problem started. I bent over and now I can't even move, doc. And so it must have been because I bent over yesterday in the wrong position. Well, we take an x-ray and it looks like a bomb exploded in the spine. And I say, you know what? That didn't happen overnight, right? It's this process of degeneration or deterioration. So you wouldn't say, for example, my jet ski, if I didn't change the oil, if I didn't change the spark plugs, if I didn't run it every once in a while, and then one day it broke, I wouldn't say, oh, this must have just happened. No, it's a process of ignoring the proper maintenance. And every day of our lives, our spines take a certain level of abuse, right? We sleep wrong. How many times have you slept in a wrong position at nighttime? If you have kids, believe me, it's been multiple times, right? I look at children and how many times do they fall? These atrocious falls, right? When they're learning to ride bikes or just playing with each other. Car accidents. How many people have had a car accident or a motorcycle accident? All that brute trauma. Sitting in poor positions at desks, right? Hours and hours on the computer. I know I'm guilty of that at times, right? This cell phone usage, looking down all the time into your cell phone. All these micro traumas that we do every single day. Yet, how is it that we completely ignore our spinal column for 40 or 50 years? And we think that's a normal behavior. And we think we should be functioning at 100%. Why am I not functioning at 100%? Well, it could be because you've completely ignored the spine and nervous system, which are crucial to the optimal function, healing, and adaptability of your organism. So again, we have to change the way we think. Change thinking changes everything, right? So if we start to think differently and we start to recognize the importance of the spinal column and the importance of the nerve system that resides within it, I got to tell you, what I'm finding with my practice members now, and this is why I get so excited, is that light bulb goes on of potential, and all of a sudden they start saying, Doc, I came in here for low back pain, and gosh, this has worked wonders. I came in here because, I was going to get operated on. I've already been operated on twice, and I didn't want to do a third operation on this herniated disc, right? So I came in here because a friend of mine had a great result. And then those issues start to go away. And then they start to say, hey, Doc, you know what? I never miss flu season. I'm always sick every time the flu comes around. All of a sudden, I'm finding I'm not catching the cold. I'm not catching the flu. Does that have anything to do with this? And, we know from the modern science of neuroimmunology that there is a direct and an indirect relationship between the functioning of the nervous system and the functioning of the immune system. We've known this for years, right? Now, that's not to say, and I want to be very clear, because sometimes people have this idea that chiropractic is, in Spanish, we call it a cura lo todo, that it's something that cures everything. It's a cure-all. Chiropractic is not about that. One of my mentors, Dr. James Sigafus, used to say, I'm a chiropractor. I can't even cure a ham, right? So the idea is we're not doing the healing. We're not doing the curing. And I have a lot of people, believe me, when I'm in practice, I have people that, and I'm honored, people that are religious people, they'll kiss my hands, they'll bless my hands because they say, your hands have done miracles. You've healed me. And I always say to them, listen, it's not me that did this. Okay, my last name is Dr. Schubel. It's not Dr. Put in your religious construct or God in there. What I've been able to do is determine where your life force is being blocked in the nerve system. And then through a specific spinal chiropractic adjustment, remove that blockage, realign everything, and guess who's doing the healing? You. Because if you look up the definition of healing in the dictionary, it's when the body replaces the cells that are damaged with new and healthy cells. So who's doing it? The doctor? No. The doctor just removes the obstruction. Even like I look at a nerve doctor, a doctor who operates on like a tumor that's affecting the nerve system. They're not healing the patient. They're removing the tumor that is obstructing the proper communication to the nerve system. So in essence, any doctor that is doing something very good for the practice member is looking to remove obstructions to their natural and normal healing capacity. And that's how I look at myself, almost like an electrician of the spine. I'm looking at where are these fuses burnt, doing a little adjustment in there and restoring the nerve energy or restoring the electricity. I'm not going around changing all the light bulbs, right? Because that's the end result. What I want to do when the power's out, I don't start changing all the light bulbs in my house. I start where the cause is. I start where's the power source, and the power source is in your brain. it surges down the medulla oblongata, crisscrosses down there, continues on down the spinal cord, and then that nerve energy leaves the spinal cord through 31 pairs of spinal nerves. And then those 31 pairs of spinal nerves branch off into millions of nerve endings that go to every cell. This is something you have to understand. The nerves go to every cell, tissue, and organ in your body. There is absolutely no part of your body that is not receiving information and giving out information in a connective feedback loop to regulate your homeostasis and to regulate your ability to achieve a level of salutogenesis. The body is always trying to adapt better to the environment. When we remove obstructions to that, that's when we're in our most powerful position to heal and function at its optimal capability. So you can see, Doc, I'm a little bit excited about this topic.
Dr. Schubel, that was amazing. I mean, you went through the whole thing that I was going to ask you anyway. Now, I always tell our practice members that the full, perfect expression of life is evident in a body without any obstruction, especially when it comes to nervous function, because our nerves are responsible to take messages from the brain to the tissue and from the tissue back to the brain. I always tell our members that degeneration is not a disease, it's a lack of regeneration.
Yes, let's talk about those two key factors. The first factor that you mentioned is that you cannot function at your optimal capability with an obstruction in the nerve system. Now, by the way, this is something that every high-level athlete understands. There is no professional sports person or sports team that does not have access to chiropractic care. Because listen, the difference between a multi-million-dollar contract and go home and take your equipment with you is percentages, minimal percentages of function. So they have to be absolutely sure, because they're at the top of their field, they have to be absolutely sure that those nerve channels are completely free from obstruction. And that's why they all have chiropractors on their team. You know, there's an interesting thing. I've had the ability, and I've made connections around the world through chiropractic. And I once had the ability to watch a doctor of chiropractic, Dr. J. Komarick. He's an animal chiropractor, right? So there's this idea sometimes, and this is what I hear with naysayers, oh, chiropractic, I don't believe in that, you know? And it's so funny to me because I say, well, it's not a belief system. There's no belief system. It's nothing for you to believe in, right? And as a matter of fact, I'm sure you've had this, Doc. I've had people that come in. A lot of times, women are definitely more intelligent than men. So they'll get great results in the office, and they'll drag their husband in, by the ear and say, you got to get, this is ridiculous. You can't keep taking these pills. It's destroying your stomach. It's destroying your kidneys. It's destroying your liver. Go in to see my doc, right? And they'll bring him in like this. And I've had the man tell me, listen, I don't believe in this at all. I had a guy tell me, I don't believe in this at all. This is a very powerful man. He owned a bunch of gold mines in Peru, very wealthy, very connected. And he said, I don't believe in this at all. The only reason I'm here is because my daughter said, you walk on water, Dr. Schubel. So I said, great, let's see what's going on. And I started to connect him, right? I started to do these specific spinal adjustments. And he actually ended up going on television and becoming a testimony for the power of chiropractic. And he said, you know what? I go to he flew from Peru to the Mayo Clinic, Mayo in the United States. It's a very famous medical clinic. And he would go there every year with his wife, and they would do a full checkup, right? And he'd spend a week or 2 weeks there, get a full checkup of all his systems. And he said, I went there for 50 years. And you know something? They've never been able to help control my blood pressure, and they've never been able to help control my stomach ulcers, and they never were able to control my low back pain. You, Dr. Schubel, never touched my low back at all. You only adjusted the cervical spine, the area that affects the medulla oblongata, and the brainstem. And he said, my blood pressure is back to normal. I'm no longer taking pills. I'm no longer taking any pills for my stomach ulcers. And he says, I no longer have the back pain, which I've suffered for 50 years. And he says, and this was at the time I was a 28-year-old doctor. And he says, and you're only 28 years old. He says, most of my doctors are older than me, He says that, and they have all this experience. And this is something we hear in chiropractic offices all the time. Doc, how come nobody ever told me this before? And you have to understand that there is a lot of ignorance in regards to the chiropractic profession. Doctors of medicine receive very little training as to what a doctor of chiropractic does. So just as I don't make a comment, I don't know the first thing about doing spinal surgery, right? So I don't pretend to comment on it. But I find it interesting that sometimes our colleagues in medicine make comments about our profession, yet they have no training on it. So you have to understand, you can be in love with your medical doctor, but you have to take some of that with not just a little bit of grain of salt, but probably a mountain of salt before you really take that person's advice. And again, listen, it's not about a belief system. My point was with the horses, okay? This is with the, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place here, but
no.
My friend is an animal doctor, Dr. J. Comerick. He's an animal chiropractor. So he takes care of, listen to this, high-level racehorses. So, by the way, we visited horses that almost every horse that we were at in this horse ranch in California, each one of those horses were probably worth 10 to 20 times the value of my house, So this is the high level of these horses. I mean, unbelievable, right? And so they fly this doctor in to adjust the horses. And my question is this: why are they doing this? Because this costs them a lot of money to do that. Because they notice the difference in physiology and results. They find out that their horses don't get sick as often, right? And they find out that their horses produce at a higher level. And when those horses produce at a higher level, that's big money. So in other words, they invest in their horse because they invest in the horse's health, and they invest in chiropractic to get the results and the return. So my question is this: why does chiropractic work in the cases of the horses? What's the belief system that the horses have? I got to tell you, if you know horses, if you work with horses, they're skittish. They're afraid of everything. And I watch them. When you first go to make an adjustment on a horse, they don't know who you are. They don't distrust you. But after they receive that first adjustment, it's fascinating. You go back the next time and they go, oh, that's the guy who made me feel so good last time. Let me go. So they come over and they want to get adjusted, right? Some people are afraid to get adjusted. The horses say, oh, I just know what I felt after that last adjustment. I want more of that. And so it's really fascinating to think that that really, again, many people have belief systems about chiropractic. Chiropractic is not a belief system. It's a system of adjusting spinal vertebra to remove obstruction to the nerve system. And the scientific evidence is overwhelming that a nervous system that is unencumbered, free from obstruction, functions at a higher level than one that does have obstructions, that does have spinal misalignments. Show me somebody, it's interesting. I was on a plane flying from Detroit to St. Louis. And I started to have a conversation, as I always do, because I'm always talking about chiropractic, with the poor lady who happened to get the seat next to me. I started talking about chiropractic. So she says, listen, this sounds really good. How come nobody ever told me that? And one of the things I said in the conversation was that show me somebody with a spine that's crooked. I'll show you with somebody with a whole lot of different health effects, a whole lot of negative consequences to their health. And she says, holy smokes, you just described my sister 100%. She has a crooked spine, and now she has all these other health issues. And you show me somebody with a perfectly aligned spine, I'm going to show you somebody who's functioning at their highest level. It turned out that this woman was the wife of a very powerful congressman in Washington, D.C. And get this, I mean, we think our legislators, right? This guy was in charge of healthcare for America.
Oh,
and
wow.
He didn't know about chiropractic. He thought chiropractic was all about back pain and neck pain. And of course, we get great results in that. But he didn't understand that chiropractic was about the nerve system functioning optimally. And when that system functions optimally, the immune system, the digestive system, the hormonal system, you name the system, every scientific study shows that it works better when somebody's under chiropractic care. One of the world famous researchers in chiropractic told me one time, she said, every time we study a function and we put that under chiropractic care and not under chiropractic care, no matter what that function is, we find that it's better when the person is under chiropractic care. So chiropractic care, chiropractors have a very specific part of the body that we work with, right? You know, we are working in the spinal column in general. But the effects of that are global. I mean, we have people that, you know, and I know this show talks about the body-mind connection, and there's even a spiritual connection in this. You know, we've seen in our practices so many times, again, the modus operandi that many people visit our office is for musculoskeletal, or they'd say in Europe, musculoskeletal pain, right? They have some kind of musculoskeletal dysfunction, and they've been told, hey, you know what? The pills aren't working. The therapies aren't working. Why don't you try the chiropractor? Again, as a last resort. Why don't you go to the most conservative thing last, right? This is what they've been told. And so they come to us and they get relief from these musculoskeletal conditions. But so many times, and I know you've seen this, people say, you know, doc, I used to suffer from depression like you can't even imagine. You know, my husband was so violent before he started to get adjusted here, and now he's so much more peaceful. You know, I call chiropractic almost like a secret weapon, because so many people don't know about it. It's like a secret weapon of success, because it's not like the stress disappears out of your life. It's still there. Let me tell you, my friends, you know, you want to be stress-free, then be dead, okay? A dead body is completely at rest, okay? There's no stress whatsoever on on a dead body. But here's the deal. When you're under chiropractic care, all the stress is still there, but you're above it. You can handle it, you can adapt to it, and you can deal with it. See, we have this idea that stress is a bad thing. Stress is a great thing, because when we are stressed with a healthy body, what happens? We grow, we adapt, and we improve. So this is why we go to the gym, right? We go to the gym to stress our muscles so that they grow, they adapt, and they improve. It's the same thing with our spine and nervous system. If we can keep that spine and nervous system in alignment and keep the nerve system free from obstruction, well, then our body has a greater ability to adapt to its environment, adapt to its stresses, and not be in a situation where you're in crisis. And that's really, you know, they always say an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure, right? That is really the principle. And this is where the future is going. I mean, the future of healthcare, we've seen that just focusing on pathology has made us sicker, has made us more drugged, right? And has given us less results and bankrupted us financially. That's what we've seen. So we've tried that. That's not working for us. And when I go to testify to governments around the world in relation to chiropractic, one of the things I always say to them is, hey, how's this whole system even working out for you financially? And there's not one government official that has ever said, great, you know, we spent less money last year, you know, because of a new drug that came out. No, it's always about more drugs, more diseases, and less money in the bank. And so if we're going to change that scheme, remember we say change thinking changes everything. If we're going to change that, we have to start changing the way we look at where does health come from. Salutogenesis. The word means salud is health, genesis, the origin. Where is the origin of health? And we know from scientific physiology that all life starts from the brain. That's how we know that you're dead. Time to unplug everything. There's no register going on in the brain, no electrical activity. And the brain uses the spinal cord, those 31 pairs of spinal nerves, and the millions of nerves that branch off from them as its vehicle of communication, its complex and delicate system of vital nerve energy communication. We know if that communication is obstructed, only bad things happen. We know that if the obstructions are removed, only good things can happen for you. So chiropractic, again, is not a cure-all, but what it is a way to put your body in a situation where it's at its optimal capability. Because you think about it. You just tell me any disease known to man. Name it out there. The big C, you know, whatever you want to say. Name it out there. Are you better off having, so if I'm battling with this disease, X, right, we'll call it. If I'm battling with this disease, and chiropractic can't cure this disease, but chiropractic can remove the obstruction to the nerve system. Am I better off battling this disease with a nerve system that's free from obstruction? Or am I better off battling this disease with a nerve system that is free from obstruction? So that's what we have to look at. Should we live our lives free of obstruction in the nerve system, or should we live our lives with nerve obstruction? And I think the answer is evident. And what we find is that people that have health or optimal function as their highest priority and goal, because what we know is this, right? We know that without health, there's this saying, right? A man or a woman with health has millions of dreams and aspirations. A man or woman without health has only one dream, and that's to restore and regain health, because without health, there's nothing else that you care about.
No.
And so if we say that, if we verbalize that, if we say that's a value, and I think most people watching this program would recognize and would admit to themselves, wow, yeah, health is really important. This is a high-level priority for me. Without this, I can't work. Without this, I can't enjoy my kids. You know, without this, I can't even think. If health is truly a priority to me, are my actions congruent with that being a priority? And I would suggest to you that if health is truly a priority to you, then it's not optional. It's not an alternative. It's something that's absolutely crucial that you are under regular chiropractic care to ensure that the nerve system is free from obstruction, your spinal bones are in alignment, and you are functioning and adapting to your environment, healing at your optimal capability. That's fact. We've seen it in professional sports programs. We've seen it with high-level animals, right, that function.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now we should see it with your family and with you. So I think if you analyze all the facts, there's only one intelligent decision, and that is to have a chiropractor on your healthcare team.
Well, Dr. Liam, I always tell my practice members that chiropractic is a lifestyle, not a fix. It's not a diet. Chiropractic is not a diet that you can go on there and fixes everything. And why the diets generally don't work for people is it does not align with their wellness. They follow it for a purpose and it fails. Chiropractic is a part of healthy lifestyle where you want the expression of life to be full and unobstructed through your body. The people, for example, we have a lot of, I'm sure you have had people come out and say, Doc, why does my baby need chiropractic care? Do you want to go into details with that one too?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a very easy answer. It's, you know, they've done scientific studies actually, and I'll just give you one. You know, a lot of people think even that cesarean is actually easier than natural childbirth. That's why many people opt for cesarean. But in reality, they did a scientific study where they measured the amount of force that a doctor uses, and sometimes old school with the forceps, pulling on the head of the baby to remove them from the mother. They estimated somewhere between 20 and 40 kilos of pressure to remove the baby out of the mother. So if you could imagine, in a baby, the spinal bones are not ossified, so they're still in a cartilaginous form. But they can be, with that kind of pressure, they could be misaligned right at birth. So many people don't know this. Fancy word is vertebral subluxation. That's just a fancy word for a bone in the spine out of place, putting pressure on the nerve, cutting off the life force from the brain cell to the tissue cell. So those vertebral subluxations, those spinal bones that are misaligned, can actually occur at birth. And this is why I see so many children in the practice. And again, sadly, we see these kids with chronic ear infections that all they've been doing is treating those infections with antibiotics. Now, there's a time and a place for that. Nobody argues that. But listen, I just think the most intelligent thing for your health is to always go for the most conservative and move your way into the most invasive. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So these kids are suffering from chronic ear infections. We know from neuroimmunology that there's a direct and an indirect connection between the nervous system and the immune system. And what we find so often is the top bone in the neck is called the atlas. It's the first cervical vertebra. That the first cervical vertebra and the second cervical vertebra, the axis, atlas and axis, those two bones, they're the only two bones in the spine that can directly put pressure on the brainstem. And just in the area where that delicate immune nervous system connection is. And what we find so often, and again, we're not treating the ear infection. I want to be very clear on that, right? What we find so often is a child with an ear infection comes in, we find a bone that's out of place that could probably choke a horse in that child. We adjust gently that bone, And all of a sudden, guess what? The baby is functioning at its optimal capability. I got to tell you a story about that, a personal story. So I have twins. They're 17 now. And these children, it's so funny because every time we only go to the pediatrician really in 17 years for the physicals that they need to go to school for the sports. And the pediatrician always says, these are the healthiest kids I have in my practice. What are you doing? You know, so here's what goes on is this. I was away. I was traveling a lot on business. And my older two, they were babies at the time, they started to have these ear infections. And so my mother took the kids to ENT. And now this guy, by the way, is the top #1 in the state of New Jersey for doing the surgery where they put the tubes in the ears. He's the #1. He does the most of anywhere in the world, right? So get this. He says to my mom, these kids need, both of them, need immediate surgery. If they don't have immediate surgery, they will be deaf. Now, by the way, the scientific literature would just completely destroy that argument. But this is what the doctor says. So my mom says, listen, you know, you have to go in and see this doctor. I said, fine, I'll go in and see him. So he tells me the whole story. And I said, Doc, is this the most conservative approach to this? He turned fire engine red. He was so angry that I would question anything. And so when I saw that, because why would you get angry? Why would you get, I'm asking a specific question about the welfare of my children, and all I want to know is if it's the most conservative method. He knows it's not. And so what he said was, this is a medically appropriate procedure. So I said, Doc, no, I understand it's medically appropriate. Nobody's going to take your license away for doing this procedure. I'm asking, is it the most conservative? Start asking those type of questions to your doctor and see what happens. Then we'll see if there's really a science behind it or if it's a belief system. End of the story. I started to, you know, I was traveling a lot. I started to get my children adjusted. Let me tell you, both of them didn't get tubes in their ears, and both hear perfectly well, and both are healthy today. So the doc was wrong. And so how many times do we see that in our office? Again, just for ignorance on how the body works and how the body heals. We do not treat ear infections, but we get great results with ear infections in the office. We do not treat asthma, but I have a ton of children that had asthma. I started to adjust them. They had tried all the inhalers. They had gone to be intubated over at the hospital. And now guess what? They don't have asthma anymore. I didn't heal them. I didn't treat them for asthma. But what we found is when we cleared out the obstructed nerve system, their body all of a sudden had this ability to heal asthma. So I never put the limitations on the person. I removed the obstructions, and I let that person deal with that situation on their own. My job is just to remove the obstruction. So children with ear infections, children with colic, we see a lot of that. Children with, learning disabilities, we are seeing tremendous. I have a good friend, Dr. Steve Tullius, out in San Diego. He has a practice almost entirely devoted to children with neurodevelopmental disorders. And I have to tell you, this is something that is growing. It's rampant. You know, we have an epidemic going on in the United States, and I'm sure Canada is somewhat similar, in children being born with neurodevelopmental disorders and disabilities. And the only options that are being offered to them many times is, guess what? More drugs. So in order for your child to function at a higher level, you have to drug them. Again, there's a time and a place always for drugs. But shouldn't we try something more conservative before we go right to the invasive? Because we know by fact, if you read any insert that comes with any pharmaceutical product in the world, it always comes with what? Side effects. The only side effect to chiropractic care is a nervous system that's functioning more optimal. You cannot lose. So he works with children that have neurodevelopmental disorders, and the parents are saying, how come nobody ever told me this? I was at Autism One seminar, and the leader of that whole organization said from the stage, you know something? I thought chiropractic was about back pain and neck pain. I didn't know it could help children with autism, not to treat the autism, but to help those children who are doing their best to adapt to the environment to adapt better. And isn't that what an optimal life is all about? Adapting better to your environment. And what's the system that allows you to adapt optimally to your environment? The nerve system. It's the master control system of the body. So this is, I think, the future really is what's going to happen. I envision the day where, you know, today when your child is born, they say, oh, who's going to be the pediatrician? You know, who's going to be the person who's going to check their teeth, the dentist? You know, who's going to be the person? Because obviously there has to be some level of monitoring and maintenance. And I look to the day that when your child is born, the medical practitioner says to you, okay, now before you leave here, I want to be clear. Who's going to check this child's spine? Because this whole birth process is pretty traumatic. Let's make sure that the nerve system is free from obstruction right from the start, so that your child's body can adapt to its environment. You know, remember, it's going to be growing and developing rapidly. We want to make sure that the nerve system during that whole process is completely connected to every part of the body. Doesn't that make sense? Yes, of course, doctor. That's the future. See why I'm excited?
I am very excited too. And it was funny that you mentioned about the kids. I have many practice members, when they have babies in the hospital, as they're released, before they get home, they generally stop here. Doc, can you check the baby and the mom? We do it, they're gone. And we always say that we are not treating anything. It is making sure that our nervous system functions properly, optimally, because the body will do what the body needs to do to heal. You just have to give it a chance. And using drugs, surgeries, and all those, it has its place, and they're useful at where they need to be. But you cannot opt out as your first option to try things that are radical rather than some things that are so conservative, and the side effect of it is better health. So when it comes to stress, especially if you're talking emotional stress. Oh, before I forget, I was going to ask you one other thing too. I have a lot of patients that they come, you know, we treat them. Once they leave, the practice members say, oh, doc, you know, my back is better, or my neck is better, or my shoulder is better, but my digestion has got better. And you know what? After that, they say, you know, my mood is a little better too. Although I always say we do not treat mood disorders or digestive disorders, but once the body recognizes and realizes, listen, there is shortcomings here, it does what it needs to do to heal the body, and basically your digestive system gets better. And as you know, Dr. Liam, there's a direct correlation between your digestive system and your mood and your brain. So if you want to talk some about that too, please. Your enthusiasm is infectious. I feel like this interview could go on for hours.
Well, you know, happy to do it. I have to tell you, there is this, if you think about it, there's this misunderstanding again of health. I mean, the idea that eventually I'm going to take enough Tagamet or antidepressants, or, you know, I'm going to take enough drug. Maybe the headaches are because I'm lacking aspirin. I'm having an aspirin deficiency, right? You know, all those things, the gut problems, the headaches, you name it. You have to start saying, why? Why do I have this symptomatology? You know, and this is the thing. It might not even be a chiropractic related issue, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the whole idea of treating things, right? What if you started to clean up the way you eat it, that you were eating, you know, to clean up your diet? Can you imagine how you might function better, right? Start removing some of the obstructions to that system, to the digestive system. That doesn't mean you're treating a disease. That means you're setting your body up to win, to be a winner. You know, we're in this country, you know, we're all about winning right now. Right? You know, some people are getting sick of all the winning we're doing here. But you know, the thing is this. You know, I see so many cases, and I've seen so many cases over time of, like you say, people that, you know, we'll look, for example, on their x-ray and we'll say, look at this area, it's out of place. And that's the area, by the way, they haven't even told me this. So sometimes people think I'm a magic man, right? So I'll look at an x-ray, or I'll palpate their spine, which is a fancy word for touching the spine in different areas, right? And I'll say, this area is really disturbed, right? There's a lot of obstruction here to the nerve system in this area. do you happen to have digestive issues? And they'll say, how did you know? and, you know, this is a magician. The guy checked me out. I say, do you have any problems with the prostate? Oh my goodness, how would you know? Well, this bone that has nerves that go over to that area. So it's almost like, I always say, you know, the spinal column is almost like a little bit of a fuse box for us. And what we're doing is, you know, we're looking at, instead of cutting those organs out, right, or drugging them, we're saying, where could the vital nerve flow be reduced? And if we can restore that, the body again has this ability to heal and function at its optimal capability. So I think we need to start changing this idea. And so many people, by the way, have benefited from our care. And I always say this, there are people, and I'm thankful that you're doing this program, there's people today that because they don't know this message that we're sharing, that will frankly die. Today's the last day on their planet. They might go in for a surgery that's unnecessary and have a bad reaction to that. They might be taking a pill and have a bad reaction to that and die. This happens all the time. So there's people that have never used chiropractic care that are going to die today because they did not know about it. There's people that are injecting toxins into their bodies today because they don't know that chiropractic care is an option. There's people that are taking pharmaceutical drugs that are causing secondary effects in their body. A friend of mine was a pharmacist, and he said, we sometimes, to save time, when we live in a small community, when somebody is prescribed this drug, we lay out some more of this next drug and some more of this next drug. And when I first started working in the pharmacy, I asked the experienced pharmaceutical, the pharmacist, why are we setting these other pills or other drugs outside? Oh, because we know from scientific study, once they start taking this pill, it's going to cause a secondary side effect, which we're going to have to treat with this pill. And then after a certain amount of time with this, it's going to cause a side effect that we're going to treat with this pill. That is insanity. So if you're into just treating symptoms and disease, probably chiropractic is not for you. But if you're looking for a way to function at your greatest capability, improve your adaptability, improve your capacity that's innate to heal and function at your optimal capability, well, then chiropractic is right up your alley. So, you know, the idea that chiropractic is something optional, I think chiropractic is optional if health is not your highest priority. If health is your highest priority, chiropractic has to be part of your healthcare strategy because the nerve system controls and coordinates everything.
Dr. Liam, I mean, it opens up so many doors of so many questions, but I know time is limited, and I thank you for carving out some of your time and coming to this program and sharing your message and basically giving us some insight as to what alternative ways they are to obtain and maintain your healthy lifestyle. Now,
yes, one follow-up on that, if I could.
Sure.
Because as we talked about, there's people that are going to die, there's people that are injecting themselves, there's people that are taking pills every single day that are causing secondary side effects. If you know, and this is what I always tell my practice members, if you know that there's a better way, if you know about chiropractic, my dad always said to me, I'm going to send you to school and you're going to be able to help people, right? And that's going to give you your value in life. You know, my dad busted his spine practically to get me through chiropractic college. And he said, you're going to be blessed with the information that you learn at chiropractic college. But he said, I want you to remember this one thing, son. When you're blessed, you have a moral obligation to share those blessings with the world.
Amen.
So the people that are watching this program, you've just been blessed with information that so many people do not know about. And people are dying, people are injecting themselves, and people are taking pills because they don't know about chiropractic as an option. You now have the moral obligation to share that blessing in the world. So the next time you see somebody, and this is, I drive my wife crazy sometimes because no matter where I'm at, in the airport, I could be halfway around the world. So they're never coming to my practice. I'm not doing this out of self-interest. I'm doing this out of a moral obligation. I see somebody suffering, I have to tell them about chiropractic and how it could potentially help them. That's my moral obligation. To do so, in my view, would be a sin. So I think that's one of the things that motivates me to get up every morning and to do my best every single day is because I know that people's lives are on the line. And right now, we've just empowered, thanks to your program, we've just empowered so many people to be able to change so many lives. You know, we have this idea sometimes. I know people tell me I feel insignificant. You know, I'm not a big doctor like you. I'm not this guy. I'm not a politician. Listen to me. You interact with people every single day of your life. You, with just one person, after another person, you could change the world. We can all do this together. I talk to my practice members and I say, listen, we're all in this together. We're going to learn about this thing called chiropractic. We're going to recognize the benefit that it is to our optimal ability to express ourselves and adapt to this world. And we're going to share it with the rest of the world. We're going to do this together, because together we really can change the world. Each and every one of you are a crucial component to making that happen.
Dr. Liam, I am grateful again for the time that you had devoted for us. Your message is loud and clear, and I thank you for sharing it. And if we can, I would love to bring you back and we will talk about some more topics in a later date when it works for you. I thank you for your time, sir. And I know you're doing a lot of lobbying and a lot of governmental work in the United States, which unfortunately we are not able to discuss in this program. I thank you for doing it. I hope that your struggles and all you're doing for this profession and for every one of the people in the United States, if you truly look at it, it's for people, not so much of the profession. It bears fruit for you all.
You know what, Doc, you make a great point. And I was listening in one of these governmental functions that I was in the other day. And, you know, a lot of times I have to tell you, it's intimidating. You're working with longtime politicians that know a lot more about the political process than you do. But somebody made a statement and said, you know, whenever you're fearful about speaking out, whenever you feel you might be inadequate, think about your children. What would you do for your children? And I know the answer to that question for me. I would do anything to ensure that my children could live a healthy, happy life, that they could have, as which is guaranteed to us, supposedly in the United States, that pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. That's what I want to see for all children, whether they're American, Canadian, any part of the world. We all deserve that. Those are basic, fundamental human rights. We all deserve the ability to express our lives optimally. Chiropractic plays a key role in that. And there are so many other issues that affect our children. And I think that's for me, that's what moves me to get outside my comfort zone every day. You know, I don't know, sometimes people say, oh, Doc, you're so well spoken. Well, it's only because I've been so badly spoken. You know, so I keep learning and adapting, right? Because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the benefit of my children. And as I said, I would do anything for my children. I hope you watching at home would do anything for your children as well. And I got to tell you, one of the best things that you could ever do for your child is to ensure, especially with all the toxins we have in this world today, all the stress that we have in this world today, the best thing you could do for your child is have their spine checked to make sure that they are free from obstruction to their master control system. That's going to help them develop at their optimal capability, and that's going to help them function and heal. Get them into the habit, a habit that's going to change their life by allowing them to express life more optimally. And so I thank you, Doc. Again, crucial. We're all in this. This idea that we're separate, that you and I are distinct. We're all part of this spirit that flows through the world, and we're all trying to make this place a better place. And I appreciate your efforts and the opportunity to speak to you and all the people that are on this program. It's very much an honor and a privilege to be able to share with you.
Thank you, sir, and hopefully we will see you in a perfect time later.
Great.
Bye-bye now.